Much of the conversation around the southern U.S. border focuses on the people and the drugs crossing north into the United States. But my next guest takes a new approach by studying the route of American guns that cross south into Mexico, often with devastating effects. Ieva Jusionyte is an anthropology professor at Brown University. She also spent years working on the U.S.-Mexican border as a paramedic. Her new book is called Exit Wounds: How America's Guns Fuel Violence Across the Border. Welcome. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
The name, it's a wonderful title, Exit Wounds. Explain what you mean.
So, as emergency responders, paramedics, and EMTs, we are looking for exit wounds in order to understand what did a bullet do to the body. How can we stop the bleeding as soon as we can? It's not always easy to find exit wounds, and sometimes we can't find them. So in a similar way, if we want to understand what do guns do to a society, we're looking for injuries that are not only physical, but also social, political, economic, because gun violence not only affects individuals, but extends to families, communities, entire neighborhoods. So the title is showing the urgency for us to figure out what role do U.S. gun laws, U.S. gun industry, U.S. guns play in the lives of people on the other side of the border, and how their pain then comes back to us.
So explain, if you will, what the role, American guns plays in this sort of cycle of violence.
Without the guns, we wouldn't be getting so many drugs, and we wouldn't be seeing so many migrants and asylum seekers fleeing the violence, because violence in Mexico is primarily caused by guns that come from the United States. Mexico has very strict gun laws, only 2 gun shops in the entire country, but the entire border, on the other side of the border in Arizona and Texas, you have thousands of gun dealerships, and it is very easy to buy very powerful guns that organized crime groups in Mexico want.
What do you think that most Americans don't understand about this whole situation now that you've studied? Because you talk about how this militarization, actually enriches the cartels. That struck me as a fascinating point.
That's a very important issue. We think that if we build a bigger wall or a longer wall or send the troops to the border, we will prevent people from coming, and we will keep violence on the other side of the border. But that violence is created by our own tools, by the guns we produce and make in this country. So the more we militarize the border, the more difficult it is for both migrants to reach safety, but also it increases the profits of organized crime groups who compete for these diminishing routes to take drugs. So because
you require more and more professional militarized cartels to break through.
Exactly, and more powerful weapons.
So it feels like there are all kinds of reasons to have stronger gun laws in the United States. But do you think it's fair to say that if you had stronger, background checks and all that kind of stuff, it would also make a big difference in terms of the violence and the entire way in which the border has become so militarized, so pervaded by gangs and cartels?
Stronger gun laws would help. Anything that increases gun safety in the U.S. would help. However, I do not think that we can only use laws to solve this problem, because as long as there is demand for guns in the United States, there will be supply. This is how illicit economies work. That said, if we made it more difficult for organized crime groups to get a hand of truckloads of ammunition in Texas or Arizona, and ammunition sales are even less regulated or not regulated entirely compared to guns, then there would be fewer police officers killed in Mexico, there would be less insecurity in Mexico. So there is a direct connection.
Such a pleasure to hear from you. This is a side of this that I think none of us have paid enough attention to.
Thank you very much.